Hi, this is Daniela Cambone in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where we just wrapped a fantastic Gold Stock Analyst Day. Here to tell you that our beloved guest, Rick Rule, who is one of the people I respect most in the natural resource sector, is partnering with my company, Stansberry Research, in a major way. It's something we have never done before, and it could be a pivotal moment for you personally. Rick warns that we are at a unique moment in history, the likes of which he has never seen in his 50 years of investing in the natural resource sector. And he says if you get this one thing right, you may never have to worry about money ever again. So for all the details of his big prediction and the project that Rick is working on, go to rickevent.com right now. Again, that's rickevent.com to hear about the once-in-a-lifetime financial event Rick says is happening right now and will impact nearly every asset you own. Let's get to our segment today. Hi, this is Daniela Cambone, continuing with our coverage and wrapping up from Gold Stock Analyst Day. And what a special treat, because today I am joined by the keynote, Dr. Peter Megaw. He is, like I said in the intro, he is the geologist, almost the Indiana Jones of our industry. But your work has influenced many. He's also the co-founder of Mike Silver and Minorum Gold. And I say it's a real treat because, you know, I've been covering this industry for over 15 years now, and this is the first time I finally get to speak with you. So I was really looking forward to it.
Well, I've been looking forward to this for at least 15 years since I first saw you across the room. So.
You're too kind. Well, I really enjoyed your conversation, and hopefully we can, you know, pinpoint some of the highlights from it. Few things stuck out for me. Archie's role, and feel free to fill in our audience about that. But I think it's crucial for the audience back home, mostly investors, when they're overwhelmed by, you know, where should I invest? Where should I park my money? I know there's no quick way, but a way to evaluate a company and not spend hours and hours studying it, and that's where Archie's rule comes in, correct?
That's exactly right. That's a very simple metric. Most companies will give you the ingredients for figuring it out, whether they know it or not. But it's very simple. You must be able to recover twice your all-in operating costs for the project to make sense. And so you simply plot the solution of whatever the operating costs are for that project on a graph of grade versus metal price. And it's not a straight line. It's a curve that flattens as you get to lower and lower grade. And you just see which side they fall on the line. And if it falls on the upside of the line in the economic zone, then everything's good. If it doesn't quite make it, then you need to understand why not. And if it really doesn't come close, then it's called next.
Oh, so looking at the space now, if you had to assess it, how many are falling in the good camp?
In the silver space, not that many. And you know, I should point out that we use this metric on a regular basis. There's nothing difficult about it, but if we look at hundreds of opportunities, and we look very quickly. If it doesn't make Archie happy, then we go on, or we try to understand.
Yeah, and Archie was a real person. Right?
Archie was a real person. This isn't Archie Andrews out of the comic
right.
book. This is a guy named Archie Bell, who was the VP of Exploration for Noranda.
Right.
And a number of us in the company came up through Noranda, so we give him his name. But the metric itself is not unique to Archie or to Noranda. It's been applied by many companies. So it's sort of a rule of thumb that exists in similar forms throughout the industry.
So we see, you know, silver mine. I actually think there's a lot of positive energy at this conference surrounding the silver space, even though we're not seeing it reflected in price yet, and we'll talk about that later. But let's talk about the scarcity of silver projects out there. You know, is this a concern for you?
Well, it's a concern in terms of where the silver supply is going to come from, but it's an opportunity as far as looking for the next important silver deposit is concerned, because that's what exploration geology is all about, is finding something that matters.
Well, bingo. How much of that is happening? We see the M&A happening in the space. Now, is this just a quick fix and we've lost focus?
To some extent, it's. I think we simply haven't geared back up since probably 2012. The industry really hasn't recovered from the dip in the silver price that followed the big boom following the global financial crisis. But to put it into perspective, we started Mag Silver when silver was less than $4 an ounce. So at $20 an ounce, we're very happy. Our project and the kinds of projects we like to look at would make money. I mean, at $8 silver, we still have a 15% after-tax IRR. And so those are the kinds of metrics that you have to look for. Those don't grow on trees.
They don't.
You have to go out and look for them. But there's geologic ways that you can narrow your search parameters. And once you identify where you want to be exploring, you can maximize your chance of finding big deposits. And if you look around, companies are doing it.
Yeah, you threw in an interesting metric, 60 billion ounces of silver historically?
That's roughly what's been produced in human history.
But you were saying if we talk so much about the green revolution and how much silver will be crucial, but you're saying even with recycling, it wouldn't be enough.
Well, to begin with, the estimates are that only half of that silver is left around. It's not like gold, where almost every ounce of gold that's ever mined is still around.
Right.
Silver gets used, and it gets used in ways that can't be recovered. And that ranges everywhere from, jewelry could be recycled, but the fillings in your teeth, those get ground up and they're gone. Those little RFIDs that you see everywhere, those use an appreciable amount of silver. They don't get recycled. So over time, a lot of the silver that's ever been found is gone. So you're talking a reservoir of potentially usable silver in the realm of 30 billion ounces, and not all of that's available. So over time, we need a lot more silver. We need to go out and find it.
Silver is scarce.
Yes, silver is scarce.
Let's talk about the silver price. You're talking fallacies and $50 silver, $100 silver. When people talk about those price projections, what are your thoughts?
Obviously, I would be more than happy to see prices like that, at least in the short term, except you need to think about what that means. Because silver going to $50 or $100 an ounce means that you've got some kind of major economic catastrophe. And we don't live in a silver igloo that allows us to experience those benefits without paying the cost. So, it's going to affect everything, but even beyond that, the assumption is that just silver is going to go up.
Right.
That, it's inflation that people were saying is going to drive the price of silver. If it's inflation, it affects everything. It's going to start with energy. It's going to move into steel. It's going to move into all of your labor. It's going to move into all of your operating costs. So the only way those predictions make any sense is if you believe that silver is going to go up like a balloon by itself and everything else is going to stay behind. That works in The Wizard of Oz, but I don't think it works anywhere else.
Yeah, and that's such an important point, and I say the same thing to folks who want $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 gold.
Be careful what you wish for.
And you don't necessarily need those prices to get the results with the miners.
No, and if you've been in the business as long as I have, I've been hearing people talking about this happening for more than 40 years.
Yeah.
And, I gave up waiting up nights for that a long time ago.
Look, when you look at the industry today, is there anything that, I want to know, anything that angers you right now that you see being done wrong that just keeps you up at night?
Well, I'm not sure it keeps me up at night, but I don't like seeing investors misled on the benefits or potential benefits of a particular property when a project is being, I don't want to say misrepresented, but let's just say being cast in the most possible favorable light in an industry where we need to be hard-nosed, we need to be conservative at every step, because we're talking 10 to 20 years from discovery to production, and a lot is going to change during that period of time.
How can investors get the knowledge to know when they're being misled? Is it just attending conferences like this, or, what would you say?
Well, yes, attending conferences helps, but what matters the most is that you learn to look for a few key points.
Right.
First of all, Take the numbers that people are talking about for OPEX in their grade and look at how it plots with Archie's rule. That's a very easy first step. After that, look at how the data are being presented. Are things being presented as silver equivalent? And if they're presented as silver equivalent, do they give you the recipe that was used? Did they give you the metal price? Did they simply multiply the metal value times the price and assume that you're going to get 100% of that? I mean, for example, you see recasting of zinc as silver. Well, you're going to get paid for 98% of your silver by a refinery. You're going to be lucky to be paid for 75% of the value of the zinc by a smelter. So are they giving you the haircut all the way along? And there's a number of analysts out there who want to present sort of what they want to consider an apples to apples number that people can compare, and they'll give you the recipe that they followed. And so when I see silver equivalent of, say 1,000, just for round numbers, if someone says, we got 1,000 grams silver, grade, silver equivalent. First thing I check is, so how much is the real silver in that? And if it's 150 out of the 1,000, you go, okay, why are they doing this? And it's probably not, it's not benign, let's put it that way.
I started by saying there's some good energy in the silver space right now. Even Randy Smallwood, who sits as the chair of the World Gold Council, said he prefers silver over gold right now. So I was a little surprised to hear that. So I guess your thoughts to investors watching, who are just waiting for silver to take off, who've paid their dues, who've waited patiently.
Make sure you're into something that will make money the way things are now. If something is profitable under the current conditions, or under the worst conditions you can imagine, you can sleep at night. And when things get better, you can party all night, if that's your predilection.
I just want to end with two lighter note stories. So one, I can't help but notice your beautiful diamond earring. What I believe was a bet. Is that what happened?
Took me 15 years to win the bet. But MAG was at $3.50 a share. We had a very pleasant Christmas party.
Pleasant.
We knew we had a big intercept, but we didn't have the numbers yet, and so we were just bantering about in the back of the car on the way back to the hotel. And the controller of the company said, "Well, if we get to 750, I'll get an earring." And then someone else spoke up for 10, someone else spoke up for 15, someone else spoke up for 20. I got 25.
So you guys, there's a bunch of guys out there.
And there was a gal or two involved. But they didn't count in terms of earrings because they already had earrings.
Right.
It got to $15, which was the CFO's target. He had the earring in for 3 days. He took it out. Share price went below 15 and stayed there for 8 years before it went back above 15 again. And then for the next 5 years, I sat there waiting until finally on November 11, 2020,
went down to the mall
and said, "I like that diamond. It goes right here."
I love that story. I guess the last story I want to share with you is I was at a mining presentation in New York City, and I've sat through thousands of them, but this one was remarkable, and I thought, wow. The IR person is phenomenal. I was blown away, and it was a young lady. And I went up to her at the end, and I said, I introduced myself, and I said, I've attended so many of these. And I said, you have just blown me away with your presentation. You kept me engaged. It was interesting. And I said, you are the future of this industry. And she said, well, I learned from the best because my dad is Peter Megaw. And I said, well, it's Lauren who's at Reina Silver. So I just wanted to congratulate you on raising and educating such a phenomenal young woman. She said, my dad would pull out rocks at the dinner table, because then I said, what's it like growing up with Peter Megaw? So congrats on that.
Well, we're obviously very proud and very pleased, and really look forward to seeing how she continues to do. It's fun.
Lauren, and that's the future.
And being in the same business with her, I get to see her all. It drives her mom crazy with jealousy, because I wound up getting to spend time with her at these conferences.
You guys talk the same talk, right?
Yeah. And And mom can come close, but not entirely.
I think that's awesome, and it says a lot about you. So continued success. It was an
thank you.
absolute pleasure speaking with you,
A
Peter.
delight speaking with you, finally.
Finally. Thank you all for watching. We'll have more great content coming your way, so be sure to stay tuned to the Daniela Cambone Show. That's it for me. Thanks for watching.
Opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the contributor and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Stansberry Research, its parent company, or affiliates.